What's FTX? I've never been more confused by a news story that everybody's talking about in my life. I like to consider myself fairly in the know. Don't you? I mean, you seek out the news, you watch things like I'm right, listen to the radio, you read articles. You're fairly in the know. I'm fairly in the know. I have no idea what people are talking about. Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, some kind of scam, or was it an accident? We got to talk to our friend Carol Roth about this. Joining me now, our friend, recovering investment banker and author of the outstanding book, The War on Small Business, Carol Roth. Carol, pretend like I'm really dumb. That should be easy. Explain
Jesse.
FTX. Explain.
All right, this is going to be a stretch to pretend like you're really dumb, but I will buckle down and do my best. So I'm going to start off by saying that I can't actually even tell you what FTX is. I can only tell you what they represented themselves to be, because this is the most messed up rabbit hole of a story that we are going to be peeling back the onion on probably for years. Could end up being a top story of the decade. So here's the weird stuff I've learned, and I'm gonna just couch it all saying this is all alleged and reported. I'm just basing this on what other people and other news outlets are saying. So this is a cryptocurrency exchange that kind of came out of nowhere a couple of years ago. You may have been, if you're not a crypto person, familiar with it if you watched the Super Bowl and you saw the Larry David commercial, or if you went to the arena in Miami and saw FTX Arena. So this is this cryptocurrency exchange. It was founded by this guy who's now 30. He was in his late 20s, came out of nowhere. When they said, where did you get the money for this? He kind of was really vague and said, oh, I had a bunch of lines of credits that I kept snowballing, which, by the way, is not the way that you create a multi-billion-dollar company. And within a few years, it goes to a valuation of $32 billion, and then in a couple of days goes to zero. So allegedly what they were doing is if you gave your money to the crypto exchange to trade on it, they were allegedly giving it to their sister company, this hedge fund, and they were investing it in all kinds of things, which is not something you're supposed to be doing with client money. And then the sister company was taking the tokens that FTX had created. The best way I can explain that is, let's say you decided, Jesse, that you were going to have Jesse coins. And we know that Jesse coins, you just made them up. You don't necessarily have any value, but you're starting to sell them to people. And I go, hey, Jesse, let's really do this. I'm going to buy a bunch of them, and we'll pump up the price. And then we'll make everybody think that Jesse coins are something big, even though there was nothing underneath it. So that's what the sister company's doing. So basically, this guy in his 20s, who always kind of creeped me out, I just thought in a normal crypto way, not in a ultra scammy shenanigan way. But he said he was an effective altruist. He just wanted to get really, really rich so he could give away his money. And he did this while being the second largest Democratic donor to the tune of around $40 million in the last election cycle. And he's telling you this from a $40 million penthouse in the Bahamas, because he's doing it for the good of the people. He's got this huge penthouse, and of course, while supporting the Democrats' big policy, he's in the tax haven of the Bahamas. Now, also, and I know that you've got lots of questions, but it just gets really even weirder. His parents are two Stanford professors. His father has helped Elizabeth Warren draft legislation for taxes back in 2016. She thanked him on his website. His mom, with no experience, came up with this huge PAC and is all of a sudden this major impact donor. He was tied to the WEF, which scrubbed their partnership from the website, but you can find it from the Wayback Machine. Oh, and he helped the Ukraine. They had $54 million in crypto donations that were converted into currency for them to spend on their war. Some piece of that came with help of FTX that allowed you to take your crypto and they would turn it into other currency and donate to the exchange. So there's a lot going on here. There are many, many more questions than answers, but it is one word, and that is bananas.
Okay, I'm going to ask about a couple details here because, look, I'm much more knowledgeable now than I was a couple minutes ago when we started this conversation. But one thing, You said he took all this money as a crypto exchange and then gave it to a hedge fund. Now, I understand you're not supposed to do that, and that's bad, it may be illegal, and all those things, but that actually sounds more productive to me. If I was giving a bunch of money instead of having it in crypto, a hedge fund doesn't sound like a bad idea. So what happened to the hedge fund where he sent all the money?
It's his hedge fund. It's a sister company. So it's him and his supposed alleged girlfriend that may or may not be part of this polyamorous cabal of 10, 20-something-year-olds that are all living in the Bahamas. She was the one who was in charge of this. This 20-something who, if you listen to videos with her, if you saw her, Jesse, you'd have words, but I'm just not going to go there. But at any rate, so he's taking it and basically funneling it to a sister company. So it's not like he gave it to some major hedge fund as an investment, which still, by the way, would be entirely illegal with customer deposits, but it's going to his people. And now all of a sudden there was a hack and money had been, dissipated and disappeared. And it's unclear. It's, in a process, they brought in the guy who did the cleanup for Enron to now take over this company and try and get the people who made deposits and other creditors back some of their money, but there's just no idea of how much of it at this point has been completely dissipated through highly questionable to possibly fraudulent and illegal activity.
Okay, you know what? We're gonna set that story aside for a moment because here's the thing, Carol. What I don't understand is fraud, no fraud, scam. How you go from a country worth $20 to $30 billion to worth zero? I don't understand how that's even possible.
Yeah, so I think that's part of the question, these fraudulent activities. I think the things that people are going to be looking into are obviously the ties to Democratic donors, the ties to Ukraine, from this fraud, who were the folks who benefited from it. And I think, based again on some of the things that I'm seeing that I think we'll probably revisit again soon, there could be also all kinds of other really bad, weird things going on. And I do think, when you look at this, I think this is a conduit, whether intentional or not, for our government to come in, and they're not going to give a bailout, but they're going to say, this is why we need crypto regulation. And they're going to use that because you need congressional approval for a CBDC, a central bank digital currency backed by the Fed. They're probably going to try to sneak that into that bill and get Congress to approve it. So we need to be vigilant and keep our eyes on what's happening. I don't know if this is a useful crisis or an intentional one, but I'm telling you, this has the underpinnings of a huge story. And because it's complicated, people are not going to want to get into the weeds. We need to get into the weeds on this one.